Hello, hello. Let's do a mic test real quick just to double check we're all good to go.
Check, check.
Hey, welcome back.
What's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm good, man. It's good to have you back, man. I'm excited. When I heard you guys were, launching stuff again already and ready to do an update, man, I was excited. I was like, man, these guys are really well, because like coming back 3-4 times to update us, that's rare. Like even really good teams, they get so busy with the development and everything going on. It's like we have to sometimes track them down and be like, hey, you got some cool stuff. Why don't you highlight with our community? But you guys are just on it. You guys are just launching and just exploring the whole marketing avenue as much as you can, and it's just really cool. It's just exciting to have you guys back. So, and what I was just explaining right before we unmuted you is like we're gonna have an exciting Twitter space, but it's gonna be different than what you guys are normally used to. It's just gonna be a massive update on a familiar veteran in the space. So it's just really cool to have you back.
Yeah, great to be back. By the way, if you've noticed my sexy, sultry voice today, I'm just kicking something. So enjoy.
Oh yeah, no, you know what? I totally understand. My entire family got something, and I quarantined the heck out of myself because I got a
Same,
busy week.
bro.
I
Same.
just
Entire
got back from
family.
vacation. Yeah, I just got back from vacation, and I was in Chicago for 4 or 5 days, and then I flew back into town, and everybody was sick. So I was like, just get away. I don't want it. I don't want it.
Yeah.
I feel my throat just like you. I can feel it scratchy. I felt a little nasally today, but I took some medication, and I just feel ready to go. So I was like, you know what? Today ain't gonna slow me down. So.
All I'll say is I got a fever, and the only cure is more crypto.
Right, right. You got to stay busy pretty much. If not, you're going to end up just feeling worse. I know how that feeling is. So, with that being said, I will say this is going to be a little bit different of a format from AMA. Obviously, I don't have grilling questions to understand your platform. Everybody here should be pretty much understanding what Hashflow has been doing. We had you guys on here. We've always updating everything about you guys. So pretty much, I would just like to dive into, what you guys have been doing over since the last update. And let's kind of dive into some of the meat of what you're here today for.
Yeah, for sure. So, just for context for anyone that's new, basically Hashflow launched as an intent-based DEX, and then we recently pivoted into actually building an aggregator. And so that aggregator we actually just launched natively on Arbitrum, which I'll explain a little bit later. But it's currently also now on mainnet, and then there's also the ability to swap between Arbitrum and Solana, and also Ethereum and Solana. And obviously, anyone that's a big day trader like myself, gas fees on Ethereum are just, they're going to continue to go through the roof. So being able to take a bag, a large bag from Solana to Arbitrum and Arbitrum to Solana, for cents typically is a huge value prop. What exactly is an aggregator for anyone that's not familiar? Best analogy I can give is when you're booking flights, on places like Priceline or Kayak, basically what you're saying is, here's the destination I want to make, or in this case, here's the trade I want to make. And then instead of just executing it, what it does is it basically scans, in the case of a Priceline, every flight available, every airline, every website, and then says, here's the cheapest flight. This is your best option. What we do is the exact same thing for trades. And so I'll use the Arbitrum example, but I want to swap from Ethereum into Arbitrum, into Pendle, into Radiant, any of Magic, any of these popular tokens on Arbitrum. I can now effectively scan everything from Uniswap to Sushi Swap to Lighter to Camelot to Trader Joe, kind of all in one place. And I think the other thing that's kind of exciting about that is not only are you saving money, but you're also saving time. The other thing I would add that's really cool is it's also a way to bypass front end fees. So if you're a trader on Uniswap, you've probably gotten accustomed to the fact that you're paying, a front end fee to every trade on Uniswap. By purely using Hashflow, you can still access all the exact same pools on Uniswap in addition to all these other DEXs, completely bypass that fee. And then we also have trading rewards on top of it. So you're not only not spending that Uniswap front end fee, you're also earning HFT rewards on the back of that trade. And then I can talk about this a little bit later, but in addition to that, if you're an HFT staker, we also have a pretty robust rev share program now. And so 50% of all the revenue per month is literally given right back to our community. And I think that that was like a huge differentiation for us, because I've seen a lot of projects where, there's some sort of rev share percentage, but it tends to be very, very small. And the bulk of that money is going back to the project or the foundation. We felt like, again, these are co-owners, these are, co-investors. Why wouldn't half of our profits go directly back to them? So I think that's pretty exciting. And then other things just to add, now we have
I want
extremely deep.
actually,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, I wanted to actually kind of inject on that revenue share thing.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of times these other people that haven't built an entire ecosystem that's actually already mature and flowing and already profitable, as a business model, to be able to say, hey, here's an actual revenue share that's going to be meaningful to the investors. A lot of times they just get hooked in by the word. And I think that, rushing that as something as an incentive early on is more of a gimmick compared to building an entire ecosystem, building a company that actually can generate revenue and say, hey, we're making money, but it's because of the back end of you guys, we're going to give it to you. You know what I mean? That's the differentiation. And I want to kind of point that out, is you guys
Yeah.
have built all of that to be able to sustain this revenue share and have these people that have been investing in their like for a long time to be able to actually feel the impact of that.
Yeah, no, I think you make a really good point. I mean, just going back to kind of my personal side, I am an LP in a fund. I've invested in probably close to 50 or 75 direct to consumer businesses pre crypto, and obviously one of the biggest things we were always looking for was, are these revenue generating companies? Do they understand what a P&L is? Things like that. And I think same thing in crypto. And the best example I can give is if you look at a lot of big tech companies, the Airbnbs, the Ubers, things like that. In early days, a lot of startups are not profitable, right? Like they're spending all of their investment money to scale. And then even if there is revenue coming through, a lot of times they're taking that revenue and reinvesting it in, continued expansion. And then it's, fingers crossed one day this will turn around and become profitable. I think for us, the big difference is we're already generating revenue, right? And so as more people trade on the platform, more revenue will come through, which means more rev share will go to holders. So as we grow through the bull market, so will quote unquote the piece of pie that everyone using the platform will be able to earn is.
Yeah,
And
100%
then
agree.
yeah, and then just the other things that kind of call out. So liquidity. So anyone that's a trader knows liquidity is important, especially on large trade sizes. We have extremely deep liquidity. So we've got $8 billion in liquidity. And what I would call out is not only is that, the aggregation engine that's tapping into all these pools on all these dexes, but we also have what's called PMMs, professional market makers. So everyone from, Wintermute to like DWF, they're also making pools. And so what happens is we have what's called smart order routing. So when you go to execute a trade on the aggregator, it's always going to find you the best price. But if there's a PMM that's making a pool, chances are that's going to be a better price. It'll then clear through that. You'll have no slippage, full MEV protection, and lower gas fees because of the hybrid model. And then if your trade doesn't clear through that RFQ model, the intent-based model, because let's say there's a pair that a market maker's not making because it's too risky for them, or let's say the liquidity that a market maker's making isn't deep enough, it'll then go through the aggregator engine. So long story short, every single token available on Arbitrum, Ethereum, etc., is available on Hashflow. So even I'll give you a fun example, like on Arbitrum, there's been a couple meme coins, NFA DYOR, like Small, which is tied to the Magic community, and then Boner, which is also loosely kind of associated with the Magic community. Those were only listed in kind of one place. Now they're also listed on Hashflow, and folks that trade those tokens can bypass front-end fees. So really exciting stuff.
100%. I swear to God, MevBots have been the curse, even for me, trying to join the any of the meme kind of culture, and being able to have just a slight rerouting and protection, in your trades to skip that front end fees or high gas fees, just overall. I don't even like banks like in the world, because it just feels like every time I try to use my money, there's a fee here and there. And I think,
Always.
minimizing those fees, and entry and barriers, or those small things, because a lot of times the gas fee is the biggest barrier, like you're talking about on Ethereum and stuff. Like, I don't trade on Ethereum because it's now the rich man's chain, because I just don't want to pay $60 a trade. Just don't feel like it, even though I can afford it. Just don't feel like doing it, because after 10 trades, I'm like, man, that's a car payment. Like
Yeah.
I need to stay
Yeah.
away. I need to stay away from this chain. And so like I love my Binance. I love Avalanche. There's so many other chains now that I just fully am in even Hedera, one of my favorite chains. I'm fully engulfed in their stuff because it costs me a penny to do trades, and sometimes less than that, and I like that. And so and I think Hashflow has
100%.
like set the standard to be able to help alleviate some of those problems, especially trading on Uniswap, on Ethereum, going over to Arbitrum. That little pain right there alone is something that I've always had problem finding the right bridge or having to deal with centralized exchange. So Hashflow being able to streamline that, have my assets go between my chains that I desire, at least go down to these cheaper chains is freaking a money in itself right there for anybody. At least looking to save money. Oh man,
Yeah.
especially as
And
the bull run comes. I mean, because
yeah.
congestion's happening. I mean, it's already there.
No, you nailed it. I mean, in the bear market, I moved all my bags to layer twos and alt ones for this exact reason. Cause I was like, gas fees are in the tens right now. I'm going to bridge a large amount, to one of these chains. I'm going to pay gas fees, but, I'm paying $5, $10 at the time, maybe 20. But now, even just bridging to these chains is expensive. So, a couple of things I would call out. One, you can actually purchase directly on Hashflow. So we do have Moonpay integration. So, if you want to, buy directly onto chain, you can do that. The other thing I want to call out, which you brought up, which I agree with, was, prior to what I'll explain a little bit about Hashflow in a second, prior to Hashflow, I was using third-party bridges, right? I mean, I would use first-party bridges to get my liquidity onto L2s and Alt1s. But then, again, if I want to get it off of, for example, an optimistic roll-up, I don't want to wait, the safety period of, 8 to 10 days. And so for the most part, I was using, third-party bridges to get off of those chains quickly. And then to your point, also paying a fee to get off of them quickly. I think what's really cool is, and I'll talk a little bit about Wormhole. We basically integrated Wormhole's technology, and so now we are fully bridgeless. And so what that means is, if you want to trade from ARB to Solana, ETH to Solana, ARB to ETH, etc., there is no bridge, right? And anyone that knows bridges knows, one, they're a hassle. Two, there's usually fees associated with them, and then three, there's typically like safety concerns because if you
Security
go
risk for
back,
sure.
if you go back a couple of years ago, the bulk of the large exploits were taking place on bridges. And what that is that you have 2 points of risk on a bridge. You have the point of risk when you're entering the bridge and the point of risk when you're leaving a bridge, right? And so for us, there's now no bridge, right? And so what happens is not only can you swap, across these chains bridgeless, not pay a bridging fee, not worry about, the safety or security issue. But the other thing is you're getting native assets. And so what I would find when I was bridging back in the day was, I would bridge maybe from Ethereum to Arbitrum or Arbitrum to Solana. And then like 8 times out of 10, I was getting a synthetic asset. So I was getting a wrapped version of the token. And then I'd also have to go through the step because, I don't want synthetic assets of like unwrapping that token, which I'm then paying additional fees on. And so for us
Yeah.
now, if you want to swap from, Arbitrum to Solana, not only is there no bridge, but you're getting the native token. So you don't have to worry about having a synthetic asset. And then if also you're like me and you want to unwrap it, you don't have to do that. You don't have to pay that fee anymore. And this is obviously, you and I will get into this a little bit later, but like this is only the beginning of what we're doing. So yeah.
Oh yeah, no, and we touched on it, I believe, a couple of AMAs ago that you guys are definitely focusing on building the technology out right here, and then the
Yep.
expansion is just there on. Obviously you're focused on the chains that are strong, have great movement, great traction, but also have great
Yep.
value
Yes.
to the ecosystem. So and then as you scale, obviously there's plenty of room for other really great chains. But yeah, I already am in love with Hashflow. I told you a long time ago that everything you guys were doing has been phenomenal. So just obviously seeing the growth and then you guys coming here and constantly showing us and telling us about what's going on, it's just obviously, proof in the pudding.
Yeah.
But with that being said, let's kind of move into a little bit of what, what the actual, like you explain how the aggregator works, but like what really can I value, or what kind of value can consumers see right now if I wanted to start bridging or utilizing Hashflow from the Ethereum coming over to Arbitrum or utilizing the system? Like, what are the fees in comparison to like if I was just using a regular DEX? Because I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is a lot of people they hear that, but they don't really understand like the
Yeah.
differentiating because people are just kind of stuck in the way. Like I call it loyalty branding. And
Yeah.
until you can start to get away from that loyalty branding and really see the whole wide world of what crypto is bringing out there, you're kind of
Yeah.
stuck that way. And
Yeah.
that, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, you know what I'm saying? And I know you guys are building stuff that not only is utilizing what these other technologies are doing, but you're doing it in a better way. Because I know
Yeah.
for me, like I always have to go and find the best price. I have to go to like the CMC and do all this stuff. Then I got to scan all their dexes and I have to do all this. And then I got to go hope that that's all been updated in real time. And I
Yep.
think you guys doing it the way you guys are doing it, you're doing it that way, but better, right? I would love to be able to go to one place and it tells me, okay, light or thorium chain or dex or whatever has the best price for this, or XX has the best price for this, and automatically routes me. I don't want to have to go to pain to actually have to go to that dex and
Yep.
actually connect my wallet, because that's just another security risk that you're alleviating anybody else, because there's hundreds of dexes out there, and really
Yep.
ultimately you don't know what's going on in the background, even if it's been
Yep.
good and it's been 5 stars the entire time. And I'm not trying to say anything bad by anybody, but look at what happened to FTX and many other actual big
Yep.
credible stuff when everything was beautiful. So I think that
Yep.
what Hashflow is doing alleviates another level of security risk there. So, I
Yeah.
just love what you're building.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, a couple of things I would call out. One, we've had 3 audits, including QuantStamp, and for anyone that doesn't know, I was the CMO of Arbitrum before this, so I have a pretty good understanding of like who the good audit firms are, who you can trust, who you can't. So I think again, like we didn't stop at 1, we didn't stop at 2, we did 3 independent audits. So I think that's number 1. Number 2, fully doxed team that pretty much all comes from big tech. So I come from Amazon headquarters. Other folks come from Google, Meta, Airbnb, Citadel, all these big companies. And so for the most part, I think there's a level of trust there that maybe you're not going to always find with, a full and on team. And then the other thing I would kind of call out is, I think a big thing here compared to maybe other products or projects is we all coming from big tech understand what you typically call like the mass adoption life cycle, the bell curve, right? And so when we're designing the products, and I'll explain in a second, we're always thinking about, again, like what is the optimal experience for everyone? Again, if we want to go from 0 to 1,000, like what's the best way to get there? And so things I can call out, like one, we have a .com, right? Why do we have a .com? Because a new retail trader may feel more comfortable with that, right? They're used to it. They're accustomed to it, right?
Yeah, brand
Other things,
recognition.
yeah, exactly. And then other things, when you go to the website, hashflow.com, you'll notice like we did a lot of abstraction, right? Because what we find on a lot of these dexes is there's a lot of widgets and a lot of information and all these things that just can become very overwhelming for traders that candidly doesn't even matter, right? And so when you go there, you'll notice like minimalism, simplicity. I mean, it effectively has everything you need. And this is again coming from a day trader, everything you need to make a good trade, right? And I think again, like very, very simple, you'll see, in the product, but like everything is just very, very accessible, right? So whether you're a native that's been in the industry for, 5, 6 years, or whether it's literally like your friend down the street that's asking you about crypto, like it is as easy to use as a centralized exchange. And I think that was a key thing for us because most retail traders tend to start on a centralized exchange. Then eventually they realize the importance and benefit of self custody. They move to decentralized exchanges, right? So for us, it was, can we build something that's just as easy to use so that when most people have kind of those pain points or challenges when they start switching over, it's an experience that they're very used to and accustomed to, right? And then going back to the price stuff, I would say, for anyone in the audience, follow Hashflow on CT, because we actually pretty regularly will do price comparisons. So if we see a token that's trending or a token that's, really hot one day, we will literally post screenshots of like our trade price versus, leading decks on another network, right? So for example, yeah, so for example, on Solana, pretty much every time you'll see our price versus a Radium price, and it always beats it. And then on the Uniswap front, I would say, just based on my own research, I think we beat Uniswap like 99.9% of the time, in addition to bypassing their front end fee. So again, I always say to folks like, go to Hashflow, try the product once. You're probably going to realize the benefits very quickly and start to realize like, hey, not only is this easier, not only to get better prices, but again, I'm earning trading rewards. And then if I want to stake, I'm earning additional rewards on top of that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I agree with there. And I believe that, the way you set it up, obviously, I think that the long-term earn effect of the staking from your rewards, because already
Yeah.
being so cheap to be able to trade, I think is a benefit. You're kind of incentivizing, saying, hey, we're
Yeah.
hooking you up with rewards, we can hook you up with more rewards, and we're going to make things so cheap that you love us, that you don't even
Yeah.
want your price to ever happen. So I kind of love that. And with that being said, with the whole centralized exchange feel, I agree 100%. When that same thing happened to me, I started obviously Coinbase, and then I tried to get Binance, but I'm a US person, so it was too much of a headache. I was like, screw that. I stuck with Coinbase, but I felt so not like I was in really what crypto was about. Like, as much as I love to be able to have access to some tokens, I felt like this was like a Web 2 of feeling, instead
Yeah.
of what I thought blockchain was really put. So I went and hit the books and learned about, like you're saying, self custody, what there is out there, what a DEX was compared to a SEX. And like, I was just like still so new to everything, but I dove so
Yeah.
hard at it because I was so intrigued with it. That information was there, and I was just into it, and I loved
Yeah.
it, and I've never looked back. Right, I definitely like that. So with that being said,
And
how do you
actually,
plan on what?
one
Go ahead.
quick thing one quick thing I want to add, like, so Coinbase is actually one of our investors, so I don't want to speak ill of them in any way, but I'll give you an example. Like,
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
I believe it was last week or the week before, there were two outages on Coinbase. Obviously they came back online, but again, like, as a day trader, if all of a sudden there's like an incredible trade that I want to make, and time is of the essence, and again, the site is down, I can't make that trade. So I think, like, that's just a great
It
example of
happened to
why.
me.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why self custody is so important. And you may want to keep some of your assets on a centralized exchange, but again, like, if you're a day trader and trying to take advantage of like timely opportunities, you don't ever want to be in one of those situations.
Yeah, well, I use them as my means for on and off ramping from my work. So like I had just trying to move assets to pay bills and stuff here at my house was a pain. It was, and then also I utilized them on some of my trading bots
Yep.
for price action also. And there was issues going on with them; they weren't working right, and I just stopped everything for like you're saying, for a few days for the week before everything kind of
Yeah.
normalized. And it was just like that pain right there allows you to see the value that you have, because even that
Yep.
can happen to some of these other dexes. They can be issues,
Yep.
flow going on, congestion, or an update that went wrong, or just anything like that can happen. And
Yep.
you're trading, if you're loyal branded to that, you can't do your daily trades. You're messed. You're like, what am I going to do? And then they
Yep.
feel the risk of having to go to another dex to try doing trades. And it's like, no, Hashflow has that already a lead for you. We're going to aggregate.
Yep.
If they're down, they're slow, something's not going on, we're going to go to the faster chain that gives you the best price. And
Exactly.
I think that right there in itself is an inherent value that people should be taking away from what we're talking about right now.
Yeah,
So
and I'll give you even another example. Like, you live in a place like Argentina or El Salvador, a place where, crypto is widely accepted for payment and people are using it as a hedge against inflation.
mhm.
And you want to go and buy groceries today, and now all of a sudden you can't access your wallet and you got to wait 2 days, right? So I think, again, like, yes, there's a lot of benefits to self custody from a trading perspective, but I would even just say for a lot of people from a day to day perspective.
Yeah, no, 100%. Especially like you're talking about the emerging markets within these undervalued, economic situations like Argentina. Even here in the United States, I don't care what anyone says. I don't put my money in the bank because I'm watching it go down faster than crypto is. My stuff's in stables and growing assets for a reason. And then when I need some, I take it out and pay some bills and stuff, because the world is shifting in the way the economics work. And I think that people are realizing that now. And now even utilizing Hashflow as your fee cutter, it's just like minimizing the use of the real world banks. And I think that is another takeaway that we're picking up within the use of Hashflow.
Yep.
So no, and with what I was talking about, basically about the whole how you made it more centralized exchange, flow for people coming in, they kind of have that acceptance. Well, what are you doing to really gamify that? Because I see, gamification is kind of like the new trend. I see a lot of new training games coming out, P2Es,
Yeah.
and then there's even like merging it within their decks to where like you're actually interacting with the environment. It's really cool. So I didn't know
Yeah.
what was going on there with Hash First and how you guys are trying to come in with that trend, because it's something that
Yeah.
the infrastructure is already there.
Yeah, so for anyone that's not familiar, we launched Hashverse about a year ago in partnership with folks that created, the Avengers and Captain America and the Fast and the Furious franchise. So we spent a lot of time creating it, and I think there was something like 200 unique characters. I think we had something like 10 different kind of allegiances or teams that you could join, and basically the way that it worked was we had ongoing trading competitions, right? So you would join a team based on ownership of an NFT, or you would join the larger team, free NFT mint. I think, at the depth of the bear, I remember it was like there were 4,000 active wallets, which obviously doesn't even mean 4,000 people. And we minted 6,000 players in the midst of that, right? So we had a lot of very engaged folks. And then basically what happened in the competitions was, you would, you would enter the trading competition. You would do a report for duty where you just show up every day and click a button. We also had a daily DEXer, which basically was an education platform for new traders or existing traders to kind of learn and up level their skills. And so it was a pretty big success. And so I think TBD on when we're going to launch season 2, but that is basically our gamification layer. And what was really cool about it also is there were also utility based NFTs, many of which we actually airdrop to players and participants. So, for example, what you could do is, let's say you were ranked number 10 on the leaderboard, and you had a machine gun or you had the sword. You could literally attack, number 1. Then they might drop down to number 40, and you just jumped up to number 9. You could also equip your players with armor, so if someone attacked you, it like deflected it. So it wasn't just the P&L trading competition; it had a whole kind of game element to it, utility-based and NFT element to it as well. And then at the end, both individual players and teams were rewarded, and so it was. I've gotten some really good reception from folks. They were very happy with how it ended.
Yeah, no, I like that. Instead of just being kind of just straightforward and simplistic, there was a
Yeah,
strategy behind how you were going to, utilize, the whole NFTs. I kind of like that.
yep,
It's interesting
yep,
because, like, I think that right there, obviously airdropping to everybody and kind of really like kind of showing the value to your investors is really cool. But then also
yeah,
allowing them to have these NFTs to be utilized within that ecosystem is also cool, because I think NFTs
yeah.
are great and they're undervalued in the ecosystem, and I think tying them into the gaming system and gamification is going to be another value that I think is going to bring it to the ecosystem. So that's really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
and so with that being said, I mean, what like, and I hate to get into this because I always say I don't need alpha, I don't need any of that kind of stuff, because I always love the teams to announce and cook, because it's all about timing and strategic execution. But you guys are very transparent, and open about what you guys are doing. So I'd
Yeah.
love to just dive into, like, what are you guys' future outlook? I know multi-chain's already there. You guys are already got multiple chains, but what kind of
Yeah.
is your next really expansion, and what kind of what's going on in the back? What are you guys cooking?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a pretty significant dev team. Again, pretty much all of them come from big tech. And so one thing that I've noticed that's kind of amazing here is like the quality of our devs is kind of unparalleled to what I've seen in the industry. So like each of our devs can kind of do the throughput of maybe 3 to 4 devs, which is amazing. But yeah, they've been aggressively building. And so trying to think about what I can and can't say. So what I would say is this, like the aggregator will start to travel more. So there are both EVM chains and non-EVM chains, some of which have a live mainnet, some of which are going to have live mainnets maybe in the next 6 months. We're talking to, in my opinion, kind of everybody who matters. And so what you'll start to see is that aggregator roll out onto more and more chains. You'll see that wormhole, native bridgeless swapping start to exist across more chains. And I think that's really the goal, because again, as a trader, and you hit the nail on the head, it's like for me personally, I trade on Arbitrum, I trade on BNB, I trade on AVAX, I trade on Optimism, I trade on Polygon. And for me to be able to just cross chain between all of those seamlessly, and also be able to use a native aggregator on each of them to get the best price, it just again saves me so much time and money, and then I'm earning rewards on the back of it. So I think that's kind of a big one. Um, the other thing I would kind of call out is we're also stealthily building another product right now, which I can't get into the specifics, but I would say, again, if you look at kind of what we're doing as a team, which is, how do we remove pain points, friction, barriers that native traders currently, face, that new retail participants are also going to face and probably have a harder time with. The goal for us is, again, to just completely remove those. So I think the best way to put it is, think about kind of your optimal trading experience. What do you wish existed today that doesn't exist? That's kind of what we're building. And then yeah, last piece of alpha I'll give you guys. So if you follow me on Twitter, or you follow the main handle Hashflow on Twitter, you've probably noticed there's a lot of kind of pie references. We're baking this week. Who's hungry? Things like that. That is a nod to Pi Day. So Pi Day is obviously 3/14. We're going to launch a campaign 2 days from now. There's going to be a very, very significant incentive program tied to that. So I would say again, follow me for kind of some early alpha. Follow the main handle, but that'll launch in 2 days. And I would say again, like for folks that probably are already trading on Arbitrum, they're going to be very excited about it. Yeah.
I kind of was
Oh,
making that reference too when I said, "What you guys cooking?" Yeah.
yeah.
That's what
Actually, I'll give you even more alpha. So if you want to dive deeper, go into the Hashflow governance forum. There is a vote that I submitted that passed 100%, and that may have something to do with what's coming on Pi Day. So DYR.
Let's go. So yeah, I tell people all the time, man, do your research. And I think that a platform that has a really good governance platform that
Yeah.
has really good engagement, that's how you know what's going on. Like I always say, oh, keep your notifications on and stuff like that. But really, if you are a deep diving person, you read contracts, then always go into the governance and see what's actually passing. If you see the current date, like if it's passed in the last week or 2 weeks or a month and it's been active, things have been going on there in that
Yeah.
governance, something's cooking. And you just read in there and you kind of get a hint, this might be for me. Or you're like, oh man, this might be great. I might want to start shifting some assets and get ready for
Yeah.
this. Yeah, and that's kind of the idea. I always tell people, when you do your own research, it's not just checking like that security, but it's also checking the actual community, what they're doing,
Yeah.
what they're saying, and how they're interacting with the project or even company. Because a lot of times the value comes from how the team synergizes with its community.
100%, 100%. I think like the thing that I would call out is, for anyone that knows me, I've said this on Twitter multiple times, but like I came to crypto to raise up the 99%, right? And so, I still get messages from folks from the Arbitrum airdrop. Obviously we had Hashverse, which a lot of people, turned out making a pretty big bag on. And so, again, this is my goal is like, I want to support not just our community, I want to support crypto as a whole. And so, if you follow me from a marketing perspective, pretty much everything I do, it kind of leans into that. It's like, what can I do to actually benefit the community? What can I do to actually benefit crypto? Because again, it's not about founders, it's about everybody.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And I've been following you for a while, so I've been on my main handle. So not even just on my working handles, I've been following you on my main handle for a long time because when I was there early with Arbitron, helping them do their thing, and then I didn't even realize. Man, I remember I was talking about that. I didn't realize you were the one, and then until I had my first AMA with you, and I was like, let's go. I'm talking to somebody that like I kind of looked up to this whole entire time. Funny, and that kind of helped me become who I became in the space and want to help market projects that are valuable. And I look for teams out there that actually bring real value. And I always tell people all the time, you look at the product, if the product is really good, you love it, you feel like you can do it, you look at security, you did your research, but always check your community and check the team behind it. The team is more valuable in these day and age than anything else that's being built. Because if the team isn't great, then everything is going to be either executed, there's going to be issues. And I always say that. So
Yeah.
I like you're saying right now, follow the main handle, stay in touch, turn the notifications on, regardless of what he's doing something with Hashflow, or he finds other value within the ecosystems, that you're going to see notifications pop up of things that you might be interested in because it's stuff that has actual real long-term growth, real
Yeah.
value to
Yeah.
you and real value to the ecosystem. That's the difference between degen marketers and real marketers that actually brought like the chain Arbitrum to be a top contending chain in the industry. So definitely
Yeah.
appreciate you being here. I don't know if you want to give a last call to action or you want to cover anything that we might have missed. I always love to give
Sure.
you as much time as we want, but I know we were
Yeah.
supposed to, kind of just make this an update, but I like this go as long as it needs to go. So I would love
Yeah.
to just,
Yeah, for
kind of just go
sure.
ahead and get that. I know you're busy and I know it's probably late and you're feeling sick too, so I don't want to keep you
No, it's
too
good,
long.
man. I love your spaces, and I love the community. Like, I love how many people show up for you. Yeah, the only other thing to kind of call out, and actually, again, this is exciting for me as a trader. And actually, I do want to go back to what you said a second ago, so I'll go back to that in a second. So the HFT token is currently available on Ethereum and BNB chain, and I think again, for me as a trader, like, as a US based person, it is very hard for me to access BNB. Like I figured out how to do it, but again, it took me a lot of research to figure it out, which means again, a lot of folks are probably trading on Ethereum and paying high gas fees. So one of the things I said to the team when I got here is like I really want to make the HFT token available on other chains because again, one, people can trade for lower gas fees, and two, again, some people have a preference on certain chains. They're like, that's where my bag is, that's where I want to trade. So we will be launching the HFT token on Arbitrum as well. So that'll now live across 3 chains, which I think is awesome. And then again, I think the plan is to continue to extend that to other chains. And then going back to kind of what you were saying, I think one thing I just want to call out. So I agree with you on the research side. Like, again, I'm a day trader. Just to give folks context, I think I'm up like 400% right now, and we're just entering the bull, which is kind of great. But my number one research tool has been LinkedIn because I kind of invest in crypto very similarly to how I invest in early stage startups outside of crypto. And so the first step for me, to your point, is I go look at the team, right? And there's ways to kind of hack search on LinkedIn, but I go find, all the founders and senior team members, and I look at their background and I'm like, okay, this project is developing, a new AI solution. And the CEO comes from Google DeepMind. That's a real project, by the way. I'm like, wow, that's interesting to me, right? Or someone's launching maybe a cross-border payment technology, and then I realized the COO had 15 years at MasterCard, headquarters, right? So a lot of times I've always had this thesis of I think great talent build great teams and build great products, but that's kind of been my investment thesis to date, and that's where I've made pretty much all my investments, and they've kind of panned out, right? So I think again, like don't sleep on LinkedIn; it's a hugely valuable resource. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. That's how I made some of my biggest money was going to a convention early on, and I met the team from LinkedIn, and we just hit it off because I live in Sacramento and they're from San Francisco, and we were
Right.
just like all talking about everything going on in California. And next thing you know, the next day, like the massive crash happened and everything, and I was like, oh, like kind of just bummed out about them and everything, just the market and everything. But then I was like, my light bulb clicked. And I went and just bought a bunch of it. It was like,
Yep.
let's go.
Yep.
And then now they're back at getting close to all-time highs again and just really bouncing back. And my investments are all looking pretty shiny, and a lot of times I was like I had to learn, and a lot of my friends smacked me in the head how to ride this. Technically, this is my very first full ride of a bear. I only had half a
Yeah.
bear on the last one, and I came into a bull
Yeah.
and was excited, So like actually bearing it and not taking emotions out of it, and now seeing what or taking emotions out of it and seeing what is developed from it actually truly was what people said. Wait,
Yep.
true teams, real investments, real products actually are expanding and growing, building in the bear kind of mentality. They're going to shine. And it's just
Yep.
right now, if you look across the market, even projects that haven't done much, they're building and they're growing and have a strong community are still getting an uplift, but just from being in the market and still growing and still having all that. And now
Yeah.
they're all expanding, ready to start dropping what they've been building. It's the exciting time right now. It's the time to find these
Yeah.
gems. And I tell you, the hash flow, it will be allow you to trade them across all these chains with low fees. So right
Exactly.
there is another value you're gonna
Well,
get
and
just from the expansion.
yeah, and I'll give you like another piece of kind of trading alpha, based on kind of my own strategy. But like, I think what I've noticed in this industry, so I have, 20 years of marketing experience, right? I built an entire practice at Amazon. I built the in-house agency for NBC Universal, world's largest media company. I used to work in Hollywood. My clients were folks like Justin Bieber and, Ryan Seacrest and folks like that. And I think what I've realized is like,
Ew.
there's a huge talent gap in, actually, I'll give you another one. BTS. That was another client. So I'm just looking at kind of the audience and where folks are coming from. But yeah, I think what I've realized is like there's a huge talent shortage of marketers in this industry, and that makes sense to me because it's early. Most of these companies are seed or Series A, and a lot of top talent from Web 2 doesn't really come in until like Series C or D. And so what I've kind of realized when I'm investing is, there's a lot of really great teams, really great products and projects out there that just aren't getting attention because they don't know how to play the game, or they don't know which strategies or which tactics to use. And so that's where I always start with kind of, let me go see who's on the team, let me see who's actually building this stuff, and then I may find a team where I'm like, wow, I'm bullish on these guys. Their issue right now is they just don't understand marketing, or they don't have a marketing team. And then what I say to myself is, what's the likelihood they eventually figure it out, or they will? Pretty good. And that just gives me an earlier entry point into some of these projects.
100% agree. I totally agree. You know, and like even myself coming from the Web 2 industry and into the Web 3, it didn't take me hard to kind of understand it because I had a mentor. I had, I always love name drop Maurice from Caesar's Calls. He took me under his wing in 2022 and taught me the whole year what to do, how to do, and I just grew. It was really cool because I already had some background into it. But I have friends that are fresh out of college that are really smart, got MBAs and everything, and it's hard for them to find real work in marketing because it's not about what you know, it's about who you know nowadays because it's so saturated. And I've turned a few of them onto good companies here in blockchain, and they come to me all the time and say, "You've changed my life." Yeah, it took me a little bit to learn it and understand it, but he's like, once I kind of navigated those ways a little bit, it was like I already knew how to do it. And SOE marketing is still very powerful in crypto, but just learning how that data that you're getting, you can then turn around to being value to your investors and to your
Yep.
community and to your product is just a small little learning curve. And I think that once we start to develop maybe institutions and schooling or education for it, I think it's going to be
Yep.
a no-brainer for it to be a next step because, like you're saying, there's a
100%.
real
100%.
lack of it. Sometimes I'm busy because I'm an advisor also. I do hosting and then I do marketing advising for a lot of these projects. And there's sometimes I'm working 16 hours with 5 different projects and I'm trying to like catch up on these guys because there is a very lack of real base, non-scamming, non-people that and over there's too many undervalued or overvalued people out there that overvalued. They
Yeah.
don't really bring their true value what they charge, and I think that's another
Yeah.
pain point for a lot of these projects trying to market out here.
Well, and I'll give folks in the audience a little alpha. Like for anyone that wants to work in the industry, I think part of the problem right now is like to your point, it's like there's just this disconnect between talent and postings. But what I've noticed is like one of the best places to find job opportunities that are good is on these Gitro job boards, which are basically like aggregated job boards, right? So if you go to Dragonfly, who's a VC, or Pantera, who's a VC, or Arbitrum, who's a whole ecosystem, what all three of them do is they basically aggregate all the openings from all their investment companies, which can be hundreds of companies, which means hundreds of jobs, or in the case of Arbitrum, every project within that ecosystem, which again there's hundreds of projects. And so I always tell folks that ping me, like, start on those job boards because there's just so many great opportunities at so many great projects. But again, like a lot of those jobs aren't getting posted on LinkedIn.
Yep, 100% agree. I use a couple of sites that I aggregate and I send it to friends all the time. And there's a lot out there, but people just don't know where to find it. But yeah, that's a really great point. 100% agree with that. And that there's so many new projects every day, and they're filling spots every day from mods all the way up to copywriters and content media. Someone that just wants to run their Twitter and their Telegram. Like there's so many opportunities out there that actually pay hell of a lot better than anything you can
Yeah.
find in the real world. That's for sure. So I always thought, I mean, I quit a really great full-time job to do crypto, but now I work a quarter amount of hours and I make the same value and I get to spend time with my family. And I think that right there is a bigger value, because I'm getting old. I'm not a young guy no more, and I don't want to be, struggling for the rest of my life. And this is the opportunity that people can actually change their life and not have to be a hard, working, back-breaking job, but just use
Yeah.
their brain, and their fingertips typing. So I agree with that. So no, with that being said, I mean, we did almost 45 minutes. Like I said, I know you're sick, and I actually have something coming up here real soon. So I hate to run out on this, but it was really good having you here. A huge update. I mean, this is a huge amount of stuff. I always tell people, do your research, turn those notifications on. But ultimately, I go use Hashflow, try it out, because I always tell people the hands-on approach and actually experiencing the ecosystem is 1,000 times better than anything we can tell you about how powerful it is. So ultimately, the best way you can learn about an ecosystem, and I'm saying this because I know they're safe because I actually use it. I'm in the United States, and where I'm at in the United States, they're even highly more regulated with crypto. So I have to do some sneak arounds, but I love Hashflow. And if you're, want to utilize the system and you want to see the value it is by actually being able to cut these massive fees down, because ultimately even 10 cents used 20 times, it's still $2. Cut a lot of that back because you're going to be making thousands of trades. Congestion is going to start happening. So find the best way you can aggregate your payments. And then on top of that, the Solana memes are going crazy. First it was BNB memes. So I know there's people with hundreds of BNBs or a bunch of F. Even Arbitrum had their season, and there was a bunch of people on there. So allowing me to use that without having to send it to a centralized exchange or all these other bridges, because you have the wormhole integrated, is just freaking huge. And so I always tell people, I can only tell you so much about how strong the team is and how great the product is, but you guys going and check it out, doing the research is 1,000 times better. And also, if I'm not convincing you and Andrew's not convincing you, go jump in their community and talk to people that are actually utilizing the ecosystem and that actually bringing value. Like proofs in the pudding. People sometimes will share their contract address so you can go see how they're utilizing, and then you can see the difference on yours costs and fees and theirs, and you're just going to be smacking yourself in the face because a lot of these guys want you to come in the ecosystem. They want you to use Hashflow. So that with that being said, I don't know if you want to have a last remarks or closing statement real quick before we close it out.
No, thank you so much for having me, man. Always a pleasure. Shout out to everybody in the audience. Thanks for showing up. I see my friends Barefoot and West, so shout out to the real ones, Dong Lee, Eth Daily. But no, it's always a blast, man. Thank you so much for having me.
100%, man. And really, it's our pleasure. You're building stuff that I think that is going to be a standard and a staple, especially coming in to the new bull run. People that utilize this and they tell their friends, oh, don't even go to there. Let me show you how to make a wallet. Let me show you how to trade like a real trader, and then utilize something that's going to actually bring value to the ecosystem. And hopefully, I always say that the biggest problem with crypto is retaining a lot of the user bases after everything starts to slide. And I think that if they made a bunch of profit and it was low fees and it was very fast and it's very efficient, no matter how the market swings, they've made enough profit that they'll ride the next bear to the next bull because they actually understand the market already from somebody else that utilized the hash flow during this whole bear. So I see a lot of great things happening for you guys. So I appreciate it, buddy.
All right.
I love
care.
your location too, mom's basement. I saw it just now. I just had to say that's so good. So I appreciate it, buddy. You have a good day.
Take care, guys. Peace.